My name's David Thoroughman, co-founder of one of the co-founders of MortarStone. And as you know, we really focus in the area of generosity and analytics. And we actually have coined the term generosity software. And how does software create generosity? Well, short version is it doesn't. Strategy creates generosity, right? Discipleship does. And so I'm joined with my good friend today, Chris Goulard. Chris is he's a stewardship pastor at Saddleback Church in Southern California. He also is on the board of a great organization, if you haven't heard of it. It's called the Christian Stewardship Network. And they host an annual forum, amongst other things, to teach church leaders how to build stewardship ministries, how to really ground what stewardship means. You know, some people think in some circles that means it's a code word for capital campaign, right? But it's not. It's like management. It's about, hey, what's God entrusted to your care and how are you going to manage that? So, Chris, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't you spend a minute and just kind of share with me a little bit about what you do in your stewardship capacity at Saddleback Church. Obviously, it's a huge church. It's one of those, popular churches, for lack of a better word. Everyone knows Saddleback, if you will. And so I think it would be cool to introduce you to some of the people we work with and let them get to know you from a stewardship perspective, as well as what you do with your role with CSN.
Okay, terrific. Let me start on the church side. I've been a member of our church for about 26 years now, but about 19 years ago came on staff as a stewardship pastor. And it really just came out of my passion for stewardship and generosity. And over that period of time, I've done a lot of different things at the church and worn some different hats. That has ranged anything from helping build financial ministries such as our financial coaching ministry and leading financial classes and writing a lot of curriculum and those kind of things, to mentoring and pastoring some of our high capacity folks on the giving side, and obviously working with you guys on some of the analytics. So there's a lot of different facets to it, but I would say one of the things that has really been fun for me, and I would say is what we want to be a marker of our culture within our church, is that the idea that we're all stewards in the kingdom. We're all called to be generous, and it needs to be part of our discipleship process. So as we bring people into the church and raise them up as followers of Jesus, part of that understanding and part of that journey naturally is going to be how we handle our finances and how we live generously with our finances. And so that's kind of my heart for our church. When I first got started back in 2004, a gentleman that kind of had mentored me at the time basically said, hey, you got to check out the Christian Stewardship Network. It's sort of a group of churches that have formed to get together and talk about this stuff. And, instead of reinventing the wheel, learn what other churches are doing. And so that spring of 2004, I went to the first forum that I went to. I think it was probably the third forum ever. And there were only about 15 of us. It was tiny. And it was really just a group of people who are passionate about this subject area like you and I are, and wanted to just learn from each other. Because, there's many churches don't have a stewardship pastor, unfortunately. My hope would be that, 15, 20 years from now, we could look back and think, boy, that's kind of strange, because now everybody has one, right? I mean, I'd love to see every church in America having a stewardship pastor or leader. And at the forum, it's really sharing best practices. It's learning from one another. There's some teaching involved in terms of understanding, we have different churches that teach, here's what we've done that's worked well. And sometimes it's, here's what we did that didn't work well. I mean, you learn from each other that way experientially. And also we have partners like you that come and talk about what they do. So it's a great opportunity to hear what's happening in stewardship space within the church across many different denominations and different parts of the country and so forth. But, really once a year, there's a lot of stuff that goes on during the year with webinars and things like that. But once a year, we all gather together, and it's fun that we get to do that this March in Fort Lauderdale.
Can't complain, Fort Lauderdale. As I sit in my office in Reno, Nevada, and look outside, it's snowing. So I am really looking forward to boarding that plane to go east to get some sunshine in that time. So I've been to the forum. It's been some time since I've been. We typically will send a team member or two to the forum, but I'm getting to go this time, which I'm super excited for. But tell me a little bit about the format, for lack of a better word, because you mentioned forum, and that would denote discussion, right? It's
Yes.
more of a, hey, let's learn from each other versus sitting in a room and being like drilled on for 6 hours, right? No one wants to come to a conference and just, sit there.
Yeah, we really don't want it to feel that way. We don't want it to feel like you're just showing up for a seminar and hearing things. It's quite different from that. And actually, there's 3 days to it. The Monday, the first Monday, is actually where Dave Briggs and I teach us the Stewardship Impact Workshop, which is if somebody has not gone through that, that's really the best place to start, where we teach a lot of stewardship principles, and we even talk to pastors about really how to develop a theology of stewardship within the church and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of that that's very foundational. So if you're coming for the first time, what I would say is please try and come to that, because I think you'll find it very, very valuable. The forum itself starts on Monday evening and runs through Tuesday and ends Wednesday afternoon. And there's several different formats that we use. I mean, there are some things that are sort of plenary sessions from the main stage that we feel will apply to everybody. And there's a lot of breakout sessions. So the breakouts are much more conversational, where we may have a couple of people leading a topic in a breakout session, but it's designed that they may talk about maybe what they're doing, but then everybody else can ask questions or weigh in and share their experiences and so forth. It's also a great opportunity for people to kind of hear what's happening in other churches that way, because it is conversational, as you said. And then there's also kind of learning times too, where, for example, to use MortarStone as an example, if somebody wanted to hear more about what MortarStone does and how they do things, there'd be an opportunity to hear from some of CSN's sponsor organizations like yourself, our partners, that can share what's happening. And our partners are organizations that we specifically work with because they are very germane to what we do in stewardship ministry in the local church. And that's really what we're all about. So, and then what I'd say is that even the name Christian Stewardship Network is implying there's a networking involvement to it. One of the things that has helped me over the years that has just been, I mean, it's invaluable. I don't even know how I can really put a value on it. The ability for me to pick up the phone and call somebody like Steve Carter at Southeast, or Dave Briggs over at Central, or Donna over at LCBC, or wherever. I mean, people that I know all around the country because of the connections that we've made. And I've connected with churches all around the country, and I can say, hey, have you done anything with this, or what are you doing? And so, during the course of the year at CSN, we have webinars and even just conference calls to talk about various different topics that give an opportunity for that to happen. But it's nice to be able to come together and see each other face to face and that kind of stuff. And as I said, learn, connect, and build those relationships.
Yeah, totally. Ironically, and this is kind of how God orchestrates things, I was talking with a mutual friend of ours, yours too, a gal named Brenda over at Cuyahoga Valley in Ohio. And she was talking about maybe picking your brain about Top Giver, ministries, that sort of thing. And I said, Brenda, I'm talking with Chris today at 2:30. And we're going to talk about a myriad of things, but some of it obviously is generosity, which is, hey, if you've been a good steward, that doesn't make you a generous Christian, right? So there is absolutely a process to start to deploy those things that you've managed well for him. And that's some of the things that we do in our coaching is, how do you give from assets? How do you give from your balance sheet versus just an income gift? So from that networking perspective, that's really important. I apologize. I got my dog eating a brochure over here for me, but that's what a small world it is. And so when you talk about connecting in person with some of your friends from afar and then getting to see them on an annual basis, that's invaluable. And being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, we're thinking about this. Have you done something like that? And then you being able to share experiences so that other pastors aren't paying what we would call stupid tax, right? They're trying to figure it out on their own. And in this area, you've heard me talk about this a lot, but generosity, or specifically gift advancement, major gift advancement, is so common in nonprofits. Yet in churches, it's almost like, oh no, I don't want to know what people give. And so
Right.
to start to have those other pastors or that live this out every day, to have those networks, I think it's invaluable. So speak a little bit about those friendships that you built after 19 years of coming to the forum.
Well, I think Brenda's a good example. I mean, Brenda came to the Stewardship Impact workshop that Dave and I taught up in Ohio a number of years ago. And Brenda is terrific. She's a go-getter, and she not only leads stewardship in her own church, but was networking with some other churches in the area and has almost created a little mini network just in Ohio. I mean, so it's interesting to see how that influence has gone out. But the idea of being within a church context, oftentimes we get very isolated because we don't know what other churches are doing. We don't know what's been tried. And so those kind of connections are really important, and sharing other ideas. There's a lot of churches that have sort of seen what I've done and they've copied it. Well, I probably got the idea from somebody else and copied it from them in the first place, right? So that's how that knowledge gets passed around. And this is really the hub for it, I think.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. I'm going to have our production team put together a link, but we have roughly, 6 weeks or so? It's February. Well, no, excuse me.
Yeah, 7 weeks maybe.
Yeah, February 20. When is it? No, March.
It's the forum's the first full week of March. So it's March 6th is the Stewardship Impact Workshop. We start that evening, and then it goes through the 7th and the 8th. And most people probably will fly home the afternoon or evening of the 8th. We usually end at about 3:00 on Wednesday the 8th.
Okay. And from a contact information standpoint, I know you work with Leo, you and Leo, and a lot of your.
Leo was the president of CSN. Really, the best way for people to connect is just go to the website. It's christianstewardshipnetwork.com. You can also send an email to info@christianstewardshipnetwork.com if you have questions or anything like that, and Leo or Rachel will get back to you. And if there's anything I can do, people are certainly welcome to reach out to me as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, brother. Thanks for sharing a little bit about this. And I look forward to seeing you in Fort Lauderdale, and I hope to see all of you there too as well. So thank you.
Thanks, David. Look forward to seeing you there.
All right. Bye-bye.